guess we can get started. So welcome everybody to the Food for Skin live stream, the ins and outs of clean beauty. With me, we have Lynette and Lauren giving us their expertise, advice, and tips, tricks, all sorts of information about what you need to know about clean beauty. My name is Maggie. I'm an intern at Food for Skin, majoring in chemistry. So with further ado, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, Lynn, you can go first. Sorry, as you just took a drink.
Thanks, Maggie. Hi, I'm Lynette Grieber. I've been in the cosmetic science industry for a little over 8 years now, and I've worked in the corporate environment. I started my career in Cincinnati, and I went to school there, and I have a master's in cosmetic science. And in this industry, I've worked in all different kinds of facets. I've worked as a chemist on maintaining different formulas and with upstream technology, scientific communications, claims support, safety support. I've been in many roles where I just have to touch about every single role in order to push out a product. But yeah, this is how it is in the corporate world. So thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here and talk about clean beauty today.
Of course. And Lauren?
Perfect. Thanks, Lynn. Hi, everybody. My name is Lauren Baer, and I am a beauty clinical investigator at Amway. My background is in nutritional sciences, actually. So that's why Food for Skin was a great connection for me, just to kind of combine my current job and then also my background. I went to Michigan State University and graduated about three-ish years ago. And so I've been working at Amway ever since. I started in nutritional sciences doing nutrition claim support and clinical work. And then I switched over to beauty. So that's where I'm at now, and looking forward to the session today. I also led our clean beauty team at Amway as well. So
Awesome. Well, I'm sure everyone wants to know at first, what is clean beauty? I'm gonna leave it at that, yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
If I could describe it in one word, I would say that it's very complex. It's very well intended, and I think this is an example of how the different industries react towards what's going on in the world. But it's not so easy to figure out when it comes to beauty in the cosmetic industry. There's a whole lot of things to look at. Um, and so I think if you're interested in going towards the clean beauty route and the way that you shop for cosmetics and personal care, then I think that marketing is a really great way to guide you because it's a representation of where the company's going. But if you really want to learn about it, then you're going to have to dig into the science of
yeah, I don't have much more to add to that.
it.
I think a lot of the focus is around safety. And I think that between consumers and scientists, clean can mean a little bit of a different thing. But I think at the root of it, it all leads down to safety, whatever that looks like for both consumers and the scientists.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Would you say that clean beauty products are more sustainable compared to regular?
So this is something, and Lauren, feel free to cut me off at any time.
You're fine.
Clean beauty is not an industry-wide defined thing. Um, Different brands and companies and different retailers and different label icons have their own stipulations on what it takes to be able to claim that it's clean. So my company can have a different definition of another company of what's clean. I think there's a lot of overlap, but it depends on the resources available to them at that time and how they're able to produce and the relationships that they have with the vendors and things like that. Um, what was the original question? I think I'm missing the mark here.
They're just what are clean beauty products sustainable?
I think you're
So, yeah, no, I think this is an example of how it's complex. And the same thing with sustainable. How does one define that? Like Laura said, I think that consumers have a different definition than the industry, and we try to follow as closely as we can to what the consumers want. But as you start diving down into it, it becomes more complicated.
I totally agree. I think, as Lynn said too, some the definitions of clean mean different things for different companies, and a lot of times I think that you can find that definition, or at least it seems to be more up and coming on companies' websites, maybe on some packaging. And so, if you're curious as to how a company defines clean, I think that's something that you can kind of go company by company. As I think an industry, we're trying to kind of gather together and get under kind of one large umbrella as to what clean means, so it's not confusing, not only for industry but also on the consumer side, obviously. I think that's one of the missions of clean, is to help consumers better understand the science. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think some companies incorporate sustainability into their clean umbrella. Some companies, sustainability is a little bit different than clean. They kind of work together, but they may fall under kind of separate buckets. So I think the two go hand in hand, but sometimes they might not be completely together.
Yeah, and that's the good thing too. A lot of companies and brands are transparent about how they're defining clean. You can usually find that on their website. Same thing with retailers, same thing with labeling and icons. In order to obtain that icon, you have to fall within certain stipulations. So if you really wanted to know how the company or retailer, et cetera, is approaching that, then you can usually find that stuff online.
Absolutely.
And a company usually puts into consideration how they're defining it too, not just with the consumers, but they want to sell into a certain retailer. So Sephora has this list of things that need to happen in the formula and to be able to produce it to be clean. So there's different guides out there, but again, like, it's not an industry defined thing.
No, I like that point about the Sephora list too. Sephora definitely
Yeah.
has its own thing, and same thing I think, like Target and Walmart, these companies or stores that are becoming more aware of kind of clean beauty, and they have, if you are looking through the aisles, they have more of those kind of segments, I feel like, as you kind of go down the aisles. So
Yep. And these definitions can change over time. I think we saw that with Sephora recently, as we have more information. So this is something we're all trying to wrap our heads around and making it, I guess, trying to make it less complicated.
exactly.
Would you say there is a difference between clean beauty and green beauty?
Yeah. Go ahead, Laura.
I think at the start of it, at least when we were working to come up with a lot of different definitions and figure out what it means, at least for us, and in the industry, how other companies and maybe consumers are defining it. I think the two definitely came up: natural beauty, green beauty, clean beauty. They're all kind of interconnected. I think green beauty is a lot more on the more natural ingredients and maybe the sustainability piece. Whereas clean beauty, again, I think it's more based on the safety of ingredients. So that can mean both synthetic ingredients that are safe for you, which of course I think in industry we definitely use. And then also, a mix of maybe plant-based or natural ingredients. So I think it's a combination of both. And together those ingredients work to get you that safe, effective formula.
Great. Would you say that animal testing is common in these clean beauty products?
No. Animal testing is very outdated. I don't know of any companies that do this anymore, and it's not necessary. There are industry-wide standards and tests that you can use to make sure a product's safe, and you don't need animals to do that. And there's different ways to approach making sure your formula is efficacious too. And these aren't human subjects. And there's a lot of checkpoints that come before that, right? So a lot of teams have their own toxicologists and safety specialists that are taking a look at these ingredients to make sure that it's safe before you try on anyone, whether it's a focus group or what. And I've been in the industry for 8 years now. So this might have been something that happened way long ago, but from a formula perspective, No one's doing this. If it was done, it would have been on ingredients, right? You need data points somewhere. So it's not necessary anymore because we have the research. We know enough about these ingredients, which, haven't changed too much. And so really someone's already done that work. So why go back and do it again?
Of course. That
Yeah.
makes
And I think that is something very important to address because I think that a lot of people think that scientists are taking their formulas, their mascaras, their lipsticks, and applying it on animals, which the thought of that just kind of makes me laugh. Like,
sense. Yeah.
what does that look like? Are you just putting mascara on these little bunnies in a lab? But no, I mean, it doesn't happen. It's not necessary. There are ways to make sure that products are safe and ingredients are safe, and animals really aren't in the equation.
Since we mentioned about the safety of our products, would you say that considering these ingredients are synthetic, um, are they safer than their natural counterparts in clean beauty?
I think there's probably some situations that could go either way. I think one that at least our safety team has voiced is around the fragrances. And that, consumers a lot of times are looking for these natural fragrances, essential oils and things like that. But the truth is that from a safety standpoint, there's not a lot of great stability. I think with regards to those ingredients and incorporating them into the formulas. And so in that sense, I think synthetic fragrances, are a little bit more helpful, or we've seen them to be at least a little bit more stable and safe in the end. So that's, I guess, one example.
Yeah, definitely. And if you think about something that's totally natural, I guess, produced by nature is how I define it, then you're going to get a lot of variation in that ingredient. The ingredient produced from that natural source is going to have a lot of variability based on the environment it's placed in. Was it in a stressed environment? What, like we could look at the bee industry too. There was the bee population that was declining. And so beeswax, which I don't want to go off tangent here, but people, like people want natural ingredients, but then they don't want something produced by animals.
Yes.
But I mean, like you can look at the whole bee population and beeswax and the shortage of beeswax because the bees couldn't produce it and the variability because there was a stressed environment and this and that. And so as to Lauren's point, you get a lot, it's really hard to control the formula and put out something that's the same each time because of that and something that's stable. So if you produce this synthetically in a lab, you're still able to get a lot of the same chemical structure. You're able to mimic the aesthetic and the performance, but it's controlled. And you're not relying on these outside resources, these natural resources to do that. The whole idea of being lab produced isn't something that I think, consumers think it's bad for whatever reason. They just don't like that. But there's a lot of reasons for it, and you can control the safety of it as well. So if we could start normalizing that synthetic doesn't mean bad in the cosmetic industry, I think that would be a very great step for consumers and for the industry as well.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I know, Lauren, you had mentioned about the fragrances, and what is exactly bad about having these fragrances and dyes in our products?
You know, I think from a consumer lens, and again with that like safety umbrella, I think one of the concerns is too much of a fragrance, right? Any too much of a good thing can be bad. And so I think that there are limitations as to, of course, IFRA kind of manages that too. There are standards that you can use X amount of percent of fragrance, and typically I think companies follow that in certain products. Um, I, I think again, it is just the quantity of fragrance, but sometimes when there's a bad rap about a certain ingredient or, fragrances or dyes, it seems that maybe we kind of group them under, all fragrances are bad, when really it might be just the level of a fragrance was too high in a certain product for some consumers, and obviously reactions can differ there. So I think it's a little bit more on the sensitivity side from an individual perspective as to what level of fragrance or dye is too much for a person. So I guess that can kind of cross over into voicing other opinions, and I think that's kind of the main thing there. But from a safety standpoint, I don't know, Lynn, what your thoughts are, but I think
Yeah, I think that was really well put. And I think that you're more on the ingredient side than I am. I'm more on the finished good side. But allergens in fragrance is something that we already have to watch out for and monitor as safety teams. And when you start dipping into naturally produced ingredients, I think that allergens have more variance and there's more of it. So it's going back to the whole complicated thing too. This is something that you have to try to figure out. As far as dyes, I know that there's some available out there, but they're just not as vibrant, They're not as vibrant as some of these already regulated dyes and lakes and colorants that we have. So, it's going back to the consumer, and it's, what do you really want? Do you really care about having a product that comes from a natural source and has natural dyes, or do you want the color payoff? And it's interesting to see what people choose. So I mean, that's something I guess we're still figuring out as an industry. How do we give people the payoff and the exact aesthetics and benefits they want, and to keep it as close to natural and green as we can? But it's so hard when so many other good ingredients that are safe are available.
Especially from like a historical standpoint, where it's like it's been safe to use these like all along. So I think
right.
having like a hard time trying to like grasp the concept too.
Right.
And I think a little bit of it is maybe conflicting, maybe not only on the science standpoint, but from a consumer lens. Obviously the scientists were trying, in marketing, we're trying to meet the consumer needs. Consumers may say that they want these clean products with no fragrance, no dyes, anything like that. But then when they actually go shopping, they're picking the products that have these ingredients.
Exactly.
So it's conflicting, whereas what you say versus your actual behavior.
Exactly.
So we're trying to the root of that, I guess.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And again, complicated, complex. It's really trying to understand this consumer too. Like, what is actually important to you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Like, what you want and what you say you want are different things. We had talked about Little Natural Beauty. Clean Beauty does emphasize having these non-irritating products because they use natural ingredients, but are all natural ingredients non-irritating?
Is the question, are non-natural ingredients non-irritating?
Are all the natural ingredients, are they non-irritating? Like, that is the basis of using these natural, that they're not like inflaming the skin, but is it actually?
So I can take a part of this one, I think. Just because a product, formula, ingredient is natural, if you're going to produce a finished good out on the shelves, it doesn't mean that you get to bypass all these safety checkpoints. You still have to take it in for safety testing and meet all the parameters to actually produce and sell it. So I'll just say that to start out. This is something that you have to do to launch a product, a safe product. This is important to the industry and to the consumer, and there's whole teams in the companies that are dedicated behind this. As far as going back to, is natural more safe? I think maybe not. There's a lot of things that you have to look at. Allergens was something that we just spoke about. Variability in the formula and different impurities. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get a lot of times. And it can be a crapshoot. So yeah, just trying to define that. more.
And go on.
I don't have anything more to add. She covered it.
As they're talking about with these natural ingredients, you do have to preserve them because they will at one point expire. Are those chemicals used for those chemical preservatives dangerous or harmful to the skin?
Again, I think this is where, there was kind of a bad rap about a single ingredient, and it kind of categorized into the larger pool. One of those examples, I guess, is around parabens. There was a specific type of paraben that kind of was voiced, and it kind of grew to the entire paraben pool. And again, with the safety piece of this, it's a little bit challenging because there are some consumers that say, we don't want any preservatives. Preservatives are bad. I can't pronounce those ingredients on the label or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, that preservative is really what's keeping the product safe for you over a shelf life. And that's kind of, again, around the safety piece. So in order to preserve our formulas, anytime there's water in a formula, we need to have some sort of preservative to maintain it. And even with some of our, natural extracts, those individually have a certain preservative to keep them stable and well throughout the formula life as well. So I think that there are definitely preservatives that, just based on consumer concern, we've moved away from, at least at my company, and I know in the clean industry. If you look at the no list, there's a lot of similarities across the board. But I think that there's still room for definitely keeping some preservatives in the arena because of safety. Any thoughts on that, Lynn?
Yeah, I think you covered it very well. Parabens that's a very great recent example of consumer perception and how something that is so minor and changeable within the industry can just blow up, and now all of a sudden it's like this huge project and undertaking.
For sure.
Yeah, I remember sitting in like a class and this girl reading over and like going over, I think it was like Lush products. She's like, you can't get this, like it has parabens in it. Paraben is like, what are we going on about? But I think that leads me to my next question in terms of like, what are these very common misconceptions about clean beauty?
Think, go ahead, Lynn.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, I think one of my thoughts is that consumers, that it's easy, I guess, to formulate away from all of these different ingredients, and also create these sustainable products and everything, and then also still fall at the same kind of price point that they were looking at. There are just, again, with like the preservatives, some formulas would not be stable or safe if they had zero preservatives in them, whatever that looks like. And so just, again, from the safety side, and natural, like not all natural is safe. And we're still trying to work on that, right? That's, I think, a balance between plant-based or natural and synthetic. But I think we're really trying to voice safe synthetic ingredients. There are synthetic ingredients that are definitely safe, and some of them that actually, from an efficacious standpoint, because of the variability probably on the natural side and ability to closely handle those ingredients in a lab setting, that sometimes synthetic outweighs natural. And
Yep. Yeah, I guess the largest misconception that I think that Laura hit on was that clean equals better for you and more safe.
For sure.
I know that one had touched on the price of these clean beauty products, and I was wondering if they tend to get expensive because of all the regulations and trying to make sure that they are safe for the consumer.
Yeah, and the ingredients, they tend to be more pricey, but it's not because of the ingredient itself necessarily. It's the way that it's processed, the way that it's manufactured. It's not just the ingredient itself, it's the way they're producing it. Is it within a more sustainable way. So these things cost money, and you can look at the food industry too. Like natural food stores, they tend to be more expensive than if you just walk into a grocery store. But it's available. So, you ask the consumer, well, which one are you going to choose and why? Like you have all these important things to you, but it really comes down to what are you selecting? Um, with that being said, there are a lot of affordable options that are totally safe. And, I think that one would benefit from learning how to read an ingredient statement and just understanding the basics around that. What's the order of the ingredient statement? What's in the bulk of the formula? And understanding how inkies work. Just because a product calls out a certain extract, what is in that extract? What is in this oil? And you will see that all come out on the ingredient list on the back. So, you can, if you get rid of all the marketing and the fancy packages and things like that, and all the claims, and what you're really worried about is the ingredients in there, you would benefit from reading the ingredient statement and that alone. And if you did want to look at everything else on the package, then do more research on that company. Like how are you as a company and retailer attempting to be more sustainably driven, clean focused, green focused, whatever. So trying to wrap your head around that, since it can get very complicated. Those are really good starting places.
And I think that also leads me to ask, what are the benefits of choosing clean beauty over what else is out there?
At the end of the day, I think, just choose what makes you feel good.
Yep.
Like if something that's more affordable for you and produces all the benefits that you're looking for, make you feel comfortable and great, that's good. Some people prefer to spend $100 to $400 on a face cream. That makes them feel good. That feels like ultimate self-care to them. So if shopping for clean beauty and going towards all these brands really makes you feel great about yourself and what you're doing, then, go for it. So I think that, I guess coming back to your question, I guess that's an advantage. But again, like if you really want to understand it, it's more complicated. Coming back to the original point.
Yep. I would say too, if you're a consumer that is vegan or I don't know, gluten-free, sometimes even gluten-free comes up in skincare, it seems like, or color cosmetics. So even like vegan, I think for clean, that seems to be a big one, just around no animal ingredients. And so sometimes I guess if you fit into that category, you might find that it's more beneficial for you to shop clean because you'll just see a little bit more of those labels and symbols, I guess, to help you better understand marketing and what products might work best for you. But of course,
right. And I want to add on to what I just said, because I don't think it's fair to be like, if it makes you feel great, then good, I love it. But I think there's something to be said, and you are wanting to do good for the environment. You want to be more conscious about what you're putting on your skin. So, one advantage is just moving in that direction. And, I'm willing to bet the consumers that are shopping for this, they also are approaching this into different outlets in their life too. They're probably just in general more conscious of this, which I think is a great thing,
Agreed.
Yes, of course. For just your opinions in general, what are what do you think consumers should be looking for if they're looking for clean beauty products? Like, what is like a standout quality?
Again, I think like learning how to read the ingredient list is very important, and also doing research on what the company defines as clean what that retailer defines as clean in order for that company to be able to sell in that store. And like I said, a lot of companies and retailers are transparent about this. They want to be. You could find this online. So, and also the icons too. There's a lot of different like icons that you can obtain. There's certain stipulations and certain requirements. So take a look at those icons. What does a product need to do, or where does a company need to stand in order to obtain that icon?
Agree. Nothing to add from
Yeah, everything else is just kind of like, marketing, which
Yep.
the scientists in marketing, this is something that we really have to like work together on and hold hands with. But those are like the standout things if this is something that you really want to go into.
Okay, so clean beauty is an actual movement. It's not a marketing strategy, you would say.
I think it's a marketing strategy that's turned into a movement a little bit with the consumers, of course, in there. And as Lynn just said, there's all parties, right, involved in this. It's regulatory, it's legal, it's scientists, it's marketing, it's the consumers. So it's really this like cross-functional team, working together, I guess, in order to come up with a solution. But definitely, as we're looking at the trends, Mintel data and Amazon data kind of tells us that consumers are definitely looking for these products, and the amount of products that are clean in the industry keeps going up. So it's definitely a movement, I would say, but also a little strategy. So
yeah, there's sometimes movements that happen that marketing's like, how can we like capitalize off of this?
Yep.
So I think I think that this is a really great example of how the cosmetic industry, and not just the cosmetic industry, a lot of industries are being shaped on what's going on in the world and around them. So we're seeing it with people want to protect the Mother Earth. So how are brands and companies acting towards that? With the consumers now and the Gen Z millennials, they like to be very informed. They like to be woke. They have things that are very important to them, and they will select products and buy from companies that kind of fit this mission. So I do think it's more of a movement, but and marketing is recognizing this and capitalizing on this. And, like sometimes the marketing can get a little carried away. So try not to like buy into these totally. I mean, if I'm going to put out an example, if a company says like this has not been tested on animals, it's like, okay, well, like that's like kind of not very strong marketing, because this is not an industry practice. A lot of brands can say this, but they don't. So it's like, what else do you have? Like what else is this product doing? So yeah.
Definitely.
Just be careful. I mean, yeah, be careful. Not in like a scary way, but just be more like informed.
Yeah. And you can do that right at the store, right? Looking at different product labels and things like that. But as Lynn mentioned too, you can go right to a lot of these company websites. There's a lot of, PubMed is of course a great website, but I know that consumers aren't always aware of, the great articles to look for, how to search on that. I know PCPC, the Personal Care Products Council, has a great website about cosmetic ingredients. It's a cosmetic ingredient database that you can go on, and it tells you all about the ingredient, what it's used for, and things like that. So sometimes that's a helpful resource as well.
Yeah, see.
Agree.
Here, just put, it's like calling potatoes.
Yep. Exactly. Or like, a hair oil or something anhydrous with no water and saying preservative free. It's like, you don't want to be that consumer that's like, wow, that's great. And it's like, well, actually, if you would have known that anhydrous products don't need preservatives, then this would not be as impressive to you.
Yep.
But some companies really take these and run with it, you know?
Of course. Just as like a general question for someone who is starting to look into clean beauty and wants to like swap out their skincare,
Yep.
what would you say like the starting product to like swap out?
Well, just going back into learning how to read ingredient statements, I think it would be good to select a product with not a lot of ingredients with it. So it's not like so overwhelming and there's not a lot of room for the company to have to work around that to make it like stable and whatnot. So, you know, things like soaps, things like shampoos, things like hair oils, just things with not a lot of ingredients in order to make a product.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. And maybe, you know, maybe even fragrance free too. Do you agree with that, Laura?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, whatever, right, like you said, the consumer is really looking for. I think that's definitely one that if they find that they're a little bit more sensitive maybe to a
Yeah.
fragrance, yeah, try one without fragrance. There's a
Yeah.
lot of options there. Yeah.
Yeah. And not even to say that fragrances are unsafe, because you have to test finished goods with the fragrance in it at the level in order to put it out.
Yep.
But like if something like skin sensitization or allergens was something that you were really trying to look at closely, then just get rid of it altogether. There's a lot of fragrance-free options out there, and it's less ingredients.
For sure. Yeah, I like the idea of, you know, I don't know if there's like the right product to go to if you're making a switch, but definitely some out there that are, you know that they're going to have a shorter ingredient list. That's definitely a helpful place to start if you're really trying to better understand the ingredients and what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a little bit easier on the eye as well. So for sure,
Yep.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, especially I think now with influencers, people just want to be told what is good, what's bad, and not actually do the research themselves.
Yes.
And so it's like, yes, you have to make the judgment call for yourself to be doing your own research, looking up each like website of the brand that you want to be purchasing from, and it is time consuming. And I feel like with influencers, you get like a straight yes, no, like I've already done the research for you, but everyone is different. So I would say, how reliable are these influencers?
Influencers, it's a new way of advertising. So like you could come back to the question, how reliable are commercials? Are they reliable, or is it showing you the product in a different light, how it's used? You know, this is like an influencer that you're following because they're a jet setter and they have an on-the-go routine lifestyle, or you know, they're a fashionista or a drag queen or anything like that. So, you know, like if this is someone you look up to, whether it's, you know, for aesthetics or lifestyle or whatever, I think like, you know, it's worth listening to what they have to say, keeping in mind they're probably getting paid. So like, is it really reliable? I don't know. But it's a form of advertisement. And are you following that influencer because you like the content that they're putting out, because you like what they have to say or their perspective on things, or is it just for the looks? You know, not that either or is better or worse. So yeah, that's what I would have to say about that.
Yeah. And then I think, you know, knowing the background of the influencers, that's helpful to know as well.
Yeah.
Some influencers are skin scientists and things like that. If you're looking for, you know, a clean perspective, or on the skincare end, of course, that's going to maybe be more helpful. But as Lynn alluded to,
Yeah.
there is money involved sometimes too. So just to be aware of that. But I think, you know, if you followed this person for a while, you kind of understand their tone. Sometimes they'll straight up and, you know, come out and say, like, I would not support a brand that I don't truly believe in.
Yep.
So paying attention to those kind of little details, I think, is helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And social media it can be a very great tool. That's why a lot of companies are going towards like finding influencers to advocate for them and advertising on TikTok and Instagram and things like that. So, you know, with a lot of people having smartphones and a lot of social media platforms that people with buying power have and are influenced by, I think is a good thing. On the flip side, like you have these influencers that are probably getting paid to advertise this for you. But, you know, if a product flops or is complete, it's like the meme, what I bought on the internet, what I actually got. Like if you have enough of these that come out, this can spread like wildfire. So like, you know, there's that side of it too.
Yeah, careful what you ask for.
Yeah, which can, I mean, those things go more viral than influencers that are putting out advertisements.
Yep.
So, but I in general, I think it's a good thing to lean into them. It's just it's the way our world's going, you know?
Mm. No, I think you gave some great like pros and cons about like listening to your influencers, but like with a grain of salt. Like it's really what you believe in.
Exactly.
Sudhir says TikTok maybe buy it is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Yeah. We actually had a conversation on this with our other intern Serena about, I think we were asked like how did CeraVe like skyrocket? Like what really is this outstanding product when like compared to like Cetaphil? Like it's really just extremely overpriced now for something that is just very generic. But because it's like the name brand and a bunch of influencers hopped on and said it's the greatest thing, that it's now.
Maggie, I think your speaker's a little covered.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I was just saying about how like CeraVe just basically skyrocketed in sales because influencers on TikTok were talking very highly about it, but compared to like generic like sun lotions or like face washes, it's not that much different.
Yeah. So they have a very strong advertising and marketing team.
Yep.
And, you know, all of these are important to launching a product.
Correct.
Yeah.
The product's not done. At product,
Yeah.
it's how you market it after, all of the different things that go into it as well. So product launch is one milestone, and then after that, I think is another concept.
Yeah. And the marketing, it's fun, you know, like people want to be engaged. People want to, I think the great thing about influencers and social media is like they put out certain types of content, but you also just like kind of get a glimpse into their life too. So it's like you have that trust thing, I guess. It's like you're on this type of journey with them. But yeah, the advertising and marketing it kind of gives the product more of an edge there. They're able to reach a lot of people where the science roles, you know, like we're not on that side of putting it out. But like again with the grain of salt thing, if your intention is to really figure out what's going on here, then you're gonna have to look at the science side of things. It's so easy to get caught up in the marketing, which again can be fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if your intention is to just be like, all right, shoot it to me straight, you're going to have to learn a little bit on reading up on ingredients and doing your own research outside of that. You know, I think it's a good balance too to follow different cosmetic science blogs, and I think they're called farmfluencers on your social media too. And a lot of these different farmfluencers and dermatologists and things, they'll give like their product rating. They'll use it right in front of you and give their opinions, especially if it's something like blowing up or something new and trendy. So yeah, it's hard to balance as a consumer though. It can be overwhelming, especially the marketing piece, because it's hard to keep up with the trends.
Yes.
So
on average, the American sees between 4,000 and 10,000 advertisements daily. So it's like, oh my gosh. How
many?
Between 4,000 and 10,000.
Seriously? I feel violated. I guess you're right.
I know. So in that sense too, I guess influencers may be helpful just to help you kind of like filter through that maybe, but
Yeah,
it also might be adding to it. So
right.
yeah, for sure. Just kind of knowing what you're looking for though. And I think trust in yourself in the ability to choose a product
Yeah.
that you both
Yeah.
on the nutrition side, clean, or on beauty as well, and
Yeah.
whatever that looks for you.
Yeah.
But there's
I just,
going on.
yeah, there's a lot going on. A lot of different trends. It's impossible to keep up with. One minute, this is good for you. The next minute, like, we all hate it.
Right.
And it's really like impossible to keep up with that.
Yeah.
So do your own research. And I feel like that's so cheap to say, like, do your own research. But like, you know, I think a good guide, specifically talking about clean beauty, natural beauty, green beauty, sustainability, learn how to read ingredients. Know if there's anyone on the call that's like, how do I do that? The ingredients on the back of a product, they go from most prominent to least prominent. Anything under 1% can be rearranged. So it'll be listed in order of prominence until it hits 1%, and then you can start rearranging the ingredients down there. And there's a lot that fall under 1%. You don't need a lot of things to be efficacious in a formula. And I think, you know, like, okay, where's the cutoff point? I think a good rule of thumb is finding where the preservative is. So you might need to know what different preservatives are. And there's, you know, these are things you could look up online. And just know that different extracts that marketing might be calling out, or these different types of complexes, when you look at the ingredient statement, they don't necessarily show up like that. They show up as they're inky. They show up what is composed in this extract to make it this extract, and it'll be, you know, separated out as water, blah, 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 blah. I can't think of any examples right now, but that's what it'll look like.
Yeah.
So that's a good starting point. And different icons, I think, would be helpful. And knowing what those icons mean, which you can also look up online.
Yeah, it just goes back to doing your own research, which I feel definitely a lot of people hate doing, but it's like, it's for
sure.
too.
That's overwhelming too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even find 2 or 3 things that are important to you in a formula. I need it to be within this price range. I need it to not have this because, you know, I'm sensitive to it. And I want to know that there, you know, it's being produced sustainably, or it's in a recyclable bottle. Start there. And then as you become more familiar with it, expand a little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. 2 or 3 things. Don't start listing out all these things and try to find one product that's going to fit all of it. Yeah, going back to the original point, this is very complicated. There's no industry standard. It's not a straightforward thing. So just find the things that are important to you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. We do have a question from if you would choose just one ingredient to be added to every product, what would it be?
Sudhir, what kind of product? Are we talking rinse-offs, leave-ons? One ingredient. You know, like if it was an accessory ingredient, I really like niacinamide. I think that for leave-on specifically, I think that this is something that has a lot of benefits to it, and it's, as a former chemist, it's very stable and easy to work with, safe, and it's well known. So, and I personally like it too. Sudhir, I don't know if that was the kind of answer you were looking for.
What about you, Lauren? What is your top ingredient?
Oh, I'm not as close to the formulation side. Since on the clinical side, we work with the formulators, so I don't know. I'm going to stick with Lynn's answer on that one. So yeah. I feel A is one that I love, just personally, just to keep the skin nice and plumped and hydrated.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to it. So it's like, also going back to being a former chemist, the marketing team can position it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
So,
they can. But definitely niacinamide. I know that we have an article about that as well. So if anyone's
yeah.
interested, on the blog.
Foodforskin.org.
Yeah. All right. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to drop them down in the chat. I have one important question left. What is your big takeaway that you want everyone to have about clean beauty, whether it be on the perspective or something they should be looking out for? Just what would you want someone to take away from this live stream?
Mm-hmm. I think the big takeaway for me is that this is complicated. The industry is working towards this. Be patient with us as we figure this out. But in the meantime, we're putting out products and formulas that are completely safe for you. And help us try to figure out too what exactly you want in these products. And I think that the industry and this cosmetic science community and marketing and consumers can all come to a good place if we're all transparent about what we can give, what's available to us, and what you really want.
Yep, for sure. At the kind of the big umbrella I feel like that clean falls under is transparency. So again, as Lynn just alluded to, that's both on the consumer side and on the industry side, right? We're both trying to communicate with each other. We're just maybe not sure at this time how exactly to do that, despite all the years of experience that obviously and scientists have had together in companies. So just trying to figure out, give us some time. And a lot of companies' websites, I think there are goal statements or, things we're saying, oh, we're not here yet. And that's, again, the transparency piece. Industry knows that, well, as we're dealing out safe products and everything, but maybe we're not quite to reformulating away from parabens in every single product quite yet, because that was something that we used all this time. But to, align with consumer demands and also, safety concerns, at least from the consumer side, we want to make sure that we're delivering the right products to you and what you feel best in. So just as we are on a journey, and I think that's what a lot of companies are trying to tell the consumers, we might not be there yet with 100% of our products, but we're getting there and we're trying. So it's not an easy switch day and night. It's definitely a long process as well. So just bear with us, and just say we're all working together. So
Yep. And one other takeaway is, can we just normalize that synthetic does not equal better and safe?
Also agree.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining our live stream. I'm so happy I could have you guys come back and talk about clean beauty, because I also did not know what clean beauty was until we started talking about the topic. So it's really been I think you guys are just full of such great information. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maggie, and thank you, Food for Skin, for having us anytime.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.
Hi, guys. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a good day.